Parasomnia is the new Dream Theater album, but is it really worth the hype? Let's find out, shall we? Portnoy's influence is much more than just a percussionist. He very much shapes the musical direction of this band. This reunion is significant. A bit like finding a comfy old pair of shoes, or a better analogy would be a once-loved version of yourself. And he is ubiquitous, in your face on this record. And the anticipation amongst fans has been palpable. A mixture of curiosity, nostalgia, and in my case a soupçon of apprehension. I rather liked what Mike Mangini brought to the table. He was so technically proficient and perfectly suited the shifts and moods of this music. But Portnoy brings something that can only be described as an element of this band's very soul, its identity, and of course the sound on those early albums, which we've all been longing for. Parasomnia dives into the eerie realm of sleep disorders and examines such anomalies. How apt for a band called Dream Theater.
The innocent sleep that knits up the revel's sleeve of care, the death of each day's life.
Covering phenomena such as somnambulism and somniloquy, which is sleepwalking and sleep talking, sleep paralysis, nightmares and night terrors. The album delves into the meandering of the unconscious mind. Many see parallels between this and the excellent Metropolis Part 2 Scenes from a Memory. This new album takes listeners on a 72-minute sonic exploration, replete with all those shadowy figures. And I think it was AllMusic that said it's not a strict concept album, but its thematic cohesion provides a sense of narrative threading throughout its tracks. A point to which I'd have to agree, really. This means that while the album doesn't strictly follow a single clear story like a narrative concept album, nevertheless the songs are still connected by a recurring theme or idea, giving the listener the impression of a narrative unfolding across the whole album, even if it's not explicitly stated.
Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep.
Ambient street noises dissolve into an eerie jangle of piano notes, which marks the prelude to the opening track, The Arms of Morpheus, and it sets the tone for the whole album, with John Petrucci's murky 8-string riffs superbly building tension, with his impressive deluge of Sabbath-like down-tuned sludge, accompanied by the thunderous clatter of Portnoy's kit. This track is expansive and cinematic, with Jordan Rudess's eerie ethereal tones and John Mayung's bass providing a dreamlike hypnotic throb of sound.
Whereas with Dream Theater it's very contemporary sounding, very modern, very heavy, and I think that's why Dream Theater, the band's success, has kind of elevated beyond a lot of the other prog scene.
This is a meticulously crafted overture which very much foreshadows the themes and motifs to come. This track draws its inspiration from Morpheus, which in ancient Greek means form and shape. He is a god associated with sleep and dreams. He is the son of Somnus, of course, which is the Roman counterpart of Hypnos in Ovid's Metamorphosis, and appears in dreams in human form. But from the Middle Ages, the name began to stand more generally for the god of dreams or of sleep, a kind of world fashioned and shapeless, hence Morpheus, Lawrence Fishburne's character in The Matrix, who ironically doesn't fashion an unreality, but is the very antithesis to it, the Matrix, so to speak. Night Terror is an extraordinary track, and the tone is established from the get-go with the minor riff and the menacing clatter of Portnoy's drums. And it takes us into the chilling world of nightmares and that sense of helplessness. But that creepy arachnoid riff and tumble of drums, this is a classic progressive thrash. And there's a real dynamic contrast between the lyrical introspection and the music, all providing a very claustrophobic feel, that suffocating anxiety of sleep paralysis. This is an accessible number which is still noodly enough to appeal to Dream Theater fans, yet at the same time being very much guilty of earwormery, which is just delightful, of course. I like what Sonic Perspectives had to say about this number. Petrucci and Rudess engage in a frenetic duel, trading blistering solos that recall the virtuosic interplay of Scenes from Memory. Portnoy's drumming is the glue holding it all together, his fills and syncopations adding layers of complexity without overpowering the ensemble. A Broken Man is excellent as it explores the fragility of the psyche, one undermined by the horrors of PTSD, which brings with it a whole range of hobgoblins and bugbears. The angular and discordant atonality of this one finds a kind of sonic plateau, certainly with the intricate drum patterns of Portnoy, as well as the strange timings, and that is before Labríe's warm vocals are introduced. And Portnoy is absolutely fantastic here, as is rapid-fire tom rolls set against the radio chatter of military communications. And this works so well as it fluctuates between these sombre verses and the thunderous choruses. Labríe's voice works really, really well on this album. His emotionally charged warbles are perfectly matched with the sheer assault of this music. The odd contrast between the idea and the theme of this track is sort of presented in the rather sort of instrumental midsection, I think. The next one is Dead Asleep, which is based on a harrowing true life story. Dead Asleep tells the story of a man who in 2009 accidentally strangled his wife while asleep. Dreaming someone had broken into their caravan, the man believed he was putting the intruder in a headlock. Well, he wasn't. He was acquitted due to having a history of sleep-related issues, and the song reflects the seriousness of the case in a dark, progressive metal masterclass. The clean, almost serene guitar of John Petrucci lulls us into the false sense of calm, I think. The chords are sober and vulnerable, but it all implodes into this frantic, detuned riff, mirroring the danger and randomness of the protagonist's dream state. The song pendulums between serene introspection and rage, and the use of metaphorical instrumentation is significant here, fluctuating between the two moods. And My Young's bass lines are fantastic as they provide a stable presence throughout this number, anchoring the chaos explored in the song itself. Midnight Messiah touches upon the theme of lucid dreaming. I almost said lurid dreaming there, that's more my cup of tea. Its main riff is fabulous, blending palm-muted chugs with sweeping melodic phrases. I think it was Mike Portnoy that wrote this one. It's an interesting number about creating a dream world that you can get lost in if you're not careful. A bit like Jumanji. I think Petrucci and Rudess really stand out on this one. It almost feels like it might be just me, but it feels like a homage to Metallica. Are We Dreaming and Bend the Clock is the Volta moment on this album as we move from just focusing on dreams to the regrets of reality. The former is a haunting interlude with Rudess using a church organ, which sounds quite sinister, I think, creating an eerie vibe with the whispered voices only contributing to that sense of unease. Bend the Clock, on the other hand, is a bittersweet ballad reflecting on lost time or the inevitability of things slipping away. Reminiscent, I think, thematically of Rush's Time Stands Still. The song structurally rests on Petrucci's warm, overdriven chords, yet the timbre and emotion of the piece is very much down to Labrie. The whole thing builds to an emotional crescendo with some delightful Floyd-esque guitar trillings. The Shadow Incident is a 20-minute epic. The number brings together all the album's themes and showcases this band's proficiency. The song begins with the eerie wind-up of a musical box, and its verses weave a tale of shadowy figures lurking in the periphery of consciousness. This taps into the very nomenclature of horror writing. That is dead which can eternal lie, and with strange eons every death may die. It is intense, dark, Lovecraftian in nature, of course. The extended instrumental section references former Dream Theater epics, driven by Portnoy's drumming and Petrucci's emotive soloing, and the expansive palette of Rudess's keyboards and James' vocal melodies are superb. I love the way it builds to this climactic trudge before collapsing into silence, leaving only a distant ticking of a clock. Marvellous stuff. Parasomnia is a dense, ambitious work aided by absolutely superb production. It manages to capture an emotional presence on this album, as well as the band's complex dynamic range, complex song structures, asymmetrical and complicated time signatures, and typically ludicrous levels of musicianship. The album really celebrates this band's legacy, which has helped, of course, with the return of the prodigal drummer. Maybe it's because it's a concept, or at least themed album, which is why it tickles my fancy so much. This theme presents us as a dark, heavy album. Gone are the quirky, immersion-breaking keyboard shenanigans of Jordan Rudess, replaced by remarkably restrained, song-driven performance from him. Even John Petrucci prioritises these down-tuned metal riffs rather than the musical Fruit Loopery of the previous albums. His playing is tasteful on this, there's no doubt about that, as opposed to the tangential shred fests that we used to get. And John Myung is solid and impressive, and Portnoy is certainly back. So there you are, that's my review of the new Dream Theater album Parasomnia, which is available to buy now in a number of configurations. You can choose your own poison. I will put a purchasing link just below this video. Anyway, let me know if you enjoyed this album, if you bought it, what do you think of it? Do share this video if you enjoyed it as well. Click like, subscribe, check that notification bell, do all that stuff, as it all helps the algorithm. And check some of the links below this video for ways you can support the sterling work done at Classic Album Review. Become a patron, why not? There's a fine body of work over there. We're really building a classic rock community. Anyway, that's a spiel out of the way. I'll just leave you with my closing salvo, which is hope you're well, staying safe, and of course that you keep listening. And sweet dreams.